please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, and today is October 28th, 2019. Mayor, roll call, please.
Missouri. Here. Basil.
Here.
Whaling.
Here.
Caprows.
Here.
Meyer. Here. Kraus.
Here. We have the minutes from October 15th. Are there any changes or corrections? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second? Any questions? Roll call.
Missouri.
Yes.
Basil.
Yes.
Whaling.
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
Clerk's report.
Board members have a copy. Total tax income received since September 23rd, so it's been the last month, is $475,450.87. Also, at the last board meeting, in executive session, the village board reviewed the executive session meeting minutes that needed to be approved and also needs to be considered for release to the public. And so there's three motions that need to be made, and the first one is to approve and amend, because there was an amendment to one of the minutes that was done, and the list is on 2 pages back, that on June 11th, there was a correction on one of the items. So to approve and amend the executive session minutes as discussed in executive session on October 15th, 2019. Excuse me.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any questions? Roll call.
Kraus.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
Whaling.
Yes.
Basil.
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
Then there's a need to approve resolution 2019-10, releasing certain executive session minutes. The list is attached to your report as considered by the board at the October 15th, 2019.
A motion on the floor?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any questions to that motion? Roll call.
Missouri.
Yes.
Basil.
Yes.
Whaling.
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
The last issue is resolution 2019-11, which is a resolution approving the destruction of executive session audio recordings over 18 months old. This is required by state statute.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any questions?
Resolution number?
2019-11.
Roll call.
Kraus.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
Whaling.
Yes.
Basil.
Yes.
Missouri.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Nice job. Is there anyone from the audience that wishes to address the board? If not, we have the chief of police needs to conduct some business evening and introduce some officers, and we need to swear in one officer.
Thank you, Mayor. Real quick, we had a lot of moving parts at the police department. We've had some people in the full-time academy, 2 different Cook County academies, which is the part-time academy. So we didn't get a chance to actually bring them forward to meet the board there. So if you want to stand up, we have Chris Swab. He just graduated from the Chicago Police Academy. Along with Eric, why don't you stand up? These two just graduated together last week. We're really excited to get these guys started. They'll be full-time officers. We have Ryan Drew. So he came from, he's already certified before he came to us. So he's got part-time certification. We got Raul Arroyo, who is now in the Cook County Academy, part-time academy, and he is a resident in town, and I think he'll be a great addition. So now we have 2 officers. We have 1 officer who speaks Spanish, and we have 1 officer who speaks Polish. So we're adding that to our group. Do we want to do the swearing in now, or is that?
Whatever you ready.
Okay. Oh, why don't you kind of step up by the flag?
Come around here if you don't mind.
Grab my camera.
If you want to face the other way so that you can look. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Raul Roy,
having been appointed to the position of police officer
have been appointed to the position of police officer
in the village of Beecher
in the village of Beecher,
and the county of Will,
in the county of Will,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the
that I
Constitution
will support the Constitution
of the United
of the
States
United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the state of
of
Illinois,
the state of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police officer
the duties of police officer
to the best of my
to the
ability.
best of my ability.
Okay, you're all good. Congratulations.
Mr. President, can we just have the 4 officers stand for the flag photo op? Sure. This is what the paper's like.
And then I will make a copy and give it to the chief so that you can. Thank you.
Squeeze through there.
No.
Officer now.
I know the 2 papers are gonna want pictures, so this is what they like. Hey, Chief, you're gonna have to help me with the names.
Okay. I can't spell
In order.
Chris's, but.
They'll
Thank you.
they'll start with
Oh,
those.
okay. How do you spell your name?
Let's not get into it.
He's got 3 Z's.
It's gonna take like 30 minutes.
3 Z's? 3
Careful.
Z's.
I can relate, I went from one Polish last name to another, right there with you.
You're welcome.
Good.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
congratulations,
Happy to be
guys,
with you.
I'm very excited to see what the department is going to bring. Good job, chief.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
I said done too quickly. Nice to see you again.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes.
That's it?
We're good.
Congratulations, guys.
Nice meeting you, good night. Okay, the president's report got moved up to the beginning of the agenda as was suggested. I thought the suggestion was pretty good. Sometimes I have something to say that maybe will set the tone of the meeting if there's other things going on and so on and so forth. Just a reminder, November 12th is the next meeting at 7 p.m. Because Veterans Day. Is there a motion to cancel the regular village board meeting scheduled for Monday, December 23rd?
So moved.
There's a motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second and a third. Any questions? Roll call.
Missouri?
Yes.
Basil?
Yes.
Whaling?
Yes.
Caprows?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
And with the quiet zone, we are still going through paperwork, believe it or not, with the railroad, but it's going very slowly, but we believe that we're gonna be able to start in the spring to do the implementation and the construction and so on and so forth. The paperwork is just unbelievable, and I don't know if you knew it, but we're finding out there's actually more, there's probably 5 railroads that use that track.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know that.
And they all have to sign off.
They all have to sign off on it, which is basically what's holding us up now. I do have one other thing tonight, it's not on the agenda, I learned this today. Whether you know it or not, HIT's pulled out of Balmoral. And
I was wondering.
there is a contract to buy it and the golf course with some future plans. We were asked today if we would write a letter in support of the purchase of, exactly what was he looking for in the letter?
Technically, there's a House bill out there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, to support.
Yeah.
House Bill 3933 to include the Balmoral racetrack and the casino, or racinos, whichever they would prefer, as a possibility for that Balmoral racetrack is what they're asking us to do. We don't have time to do an actual resolution, and so therefore I'd be asking for a consensus if we do agree in supporting that House bill and adding the Creek site to that bill, then I would write a letter in support on behalf of the village board.
To give you some background, there's 6 townships that are entitled to a casino and a racino. There are 3
legitimate bids that were submitted for the casino license in those 6 townships. However, the Tinley Park proposal for a Rustino on the sanitarium property was denied by the state because the people involved in the purchase and operation of that proposed casino had some connections that were unfavorable to the government. I'll just put it that way. So there is no Racino option on the table right now. So the mayor of Crete wants to include Crete Township in the 6 townships, expand that boundary to include Crete Township and Will County, so Balmoral can come into play for a Racino. The project would probably involve a hotel. I don't think there's a downside for us. It's gonna create a lot of jobs, a lot of local jobs, you know, for people who wanna work there. So I don't know what the downside would be for us not to support the concept, but I gotta tell you, this is a slim door. The door is only open a crack, you know.
From what I have heard, and I don't know how true this is that with the casino, they do revenue sharing of that tax percentage, they're 3%, I think?
Yes.
Between the 42 communities. From what I have read, and I might be not incorrect, if it's a Racino, there is no revenue sharing. That would be a possible downside if that's in Beecher.
I can tell you, the first part, yes, we've heard that. The second part seems to be up in the air for different interpretations. So you may be right, you may be wrong.
Yeah. And that was just, you know, something that I heard, I had seen in some of the news articles.
Right. Like I said, although the Balmoral racetrack is the house, though, the people that are looking to buy it are buying everything, including the golf course. And they have plans for the whole thing in the future besides the casino or Racino, wherever it may be.
And the reason for the urgency is they have to get this bill passed in this veto session, and that'll be over before our next meeting. Crete's voting on this tonight. They've asked Piatone and Moline, Will County, to pass either a letter of support or a resolution of support for this project.
Isn't it October 31st? They've all got to get their plans in by?
Not if this bill gets passed.
Gotcha.
Anybody not in favor?
I'm in favor for it. There were a lot of people in our community that were employed by Balmoral previously, so the fact that it would create jobs, I think, is good for our area.
Other comments? Okay, then I'll go ahead and draft a letter. I'll give you a copy of the letter so that you know exactly what we said and how we said it. And then we'll get it off to them. Finance Administration Committee, Trustee Beecher.
All right, well, item 1, obviously they're not here. The audit's not ready. I think they kind of dropped the ball. They've had all the information since July 15th at their fingertips. We went with Sickich for new eyes. They were well qualified. I think they have to do an extension to the state. And hopefully it'll be ready by November 12th, Bob?
Better. Staff is frustrated with it. We're very angry.
I have the whole timeline here if anyone wants to
We
look
picked
at it.
the highest paying firm on this deal
Yeah.
for a reason, and we're not getting the service that we probably should expect for that higher premium that we're paying. So that can be addressed with the auditors when they're here.
When did we approve a 2 or 3-year contract?
3 years.
3 year.
Yeah.
And they were still asking for information on payroll today. It's supposed to be completed by now, and on Friday.
In my opinion, I think they forgot we were a client for 3 months.
I haven't thought of what to do once we get past this audit.
Hopefully there'll be some kind of accommodation for the timeline.
For the next 2 years. Okay, second item, update of the 5-year financial plan in full swing. Meetings are being held with department heads going over capital equipment needs over the next 5 years. Public Works Chair has already met with staff at the request of the superintendent to review capital projects and equipment needs. Revenue projections are being made, and the first draft of the plan will be provided to the Finance Chair by December 1st.
then to the full board for review and discussion. This process will be completed before we begin the budget after the holidays. So, that's it.
Thank you. Public Buildings and Properties, Parks and Recreation Committee, trustee Lino.
Consider an ordinance establishing an advisory referendum regarding the creation of a park district. Village attorney was asked at the last meeting to draft a proper advisory referendum question for the village board to consider prior to the deadline of the spring 2020 election. I believe we have till December 29th
That is correct.
to get this on as far as for the springtime. This ordinance draft will either be enclosed, we just received it tonight, and Marcy and myself really didn't have long to talk about this, but we'd like to get feedback from the board as far as how this looks. I know that I gave my feedback last meeting, and I don't think it really changed that much. You know, the question on the ballot, it says, shall the park district be created in the village of Beecher and have the authority to tax and provide park and recreation services?
Got copies?
You get one.
It should have been, yeah, you should have had one of those.
Somewhere in your pile.
Should be in
Here it is.
So that's a simple question, and I don't know legally, you know, if we can get any more into that question or not, but,
Since it's advisory, Scott, you can ask any question you want. If it was
okay.
binding, it would be specifically.
You mentioned for all ages, right?
I mentioned for all ages, because a lot of times that gets confusing, because you sit there and you say, provide park and recreation services. You know, what does that mean to an older person? You know, because a park district is not only parks and recreation, it has so many different, it has classes, it has, you know, workshops, it has everything else, and I think if we're gonna put that out there, I think we need to explain a little bit better.
So you want to add the words for all ages on the end of it?
I agree with that.
And, you know, maybe we ought to think about even provide park and recreation classes, workshops, you know, different things like that, instead of just stating, you know, provide park and recreation services for all ages. Maybe we should throw in, you know, workshops or, you know, classes like dance or, you know, or yoga and, you know, I mean, you can't get involved like that, but I want people to understand that.
Could you do it as like an IE at the end of it as a next sentence?
Or just to include classes and, you know what I mean?
Even just like an IE and then just a couple of example of workshops, classes,
The one
or
thing,
exercise classes.
Right.
yeah, the one thing the attorney told me is don't make it too complicated.
You know, my other question, just quick reading it, would you want something in there that says, shall a park district be created within village limits in the village of Beecher? There's a lot of people that say, oh, I live in Beecher, and they don't, within the village limits.
Right.
I mean, they do live in Beecher, but I don't know if you would wanna put something about their within village limits. And that you don't have people.
That's if we're gonna go that way. You know, we had bounced it around as far as the whole.
Oh, okay.
It's really, it'd be up to that committee or the grassroots thing to decide.
To expand it or whatever. We only have the authority to.
This
ask.
referendum will only be asked of village residents.
Okay,
It will not be asked of unincorporated residents because we don't have the authority to ask them a question. That would have to come from the township.
So it only gets printed on the ballots that are.
That would be
within
my
our
concern
three
is you're gonna have,
precincts. Okay.
if it says within village limits, possibly save the election judges some questions as to why they don't get to vote on it. Well, this is your baby, so whatever you
Yeah.
wanna do.
well,
support you.
it's something we can talk about too. Marcy, you had a concern, or you?
Yeah, and I don't know how else you could word it when you glance at this, a park district will be created in the village of Beecher. It kind of automatically just gives you a picture of the village of Beecher creating this park district, which isn't necessarily the case, but I don't know how else you could word that to get around that.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, because it looks like, oh yeah, the village is gonna create a park district, which we're really not, but Maybe we can just
I
switch the
can see
wording
that.
around a little.
I can see
You know,
that now, yeah.
Yeah, I can immediately just, my brain can get rid of created in and put created by, and I can just like blow through it, you know what I mean?
What if we just got rid of in the village of Beecher, shall park district be created? We're only asking the question in the 3 village precincts, won't be asking the incorporated area. That way leaves the door wide open as to who could be in this park district. It might be
All right,
school
because the
district.
grassroots
Or a
committee
park
might,
district be created for Beecher residents, and, you know, I mean, that doesn't say whether it's in town or out of town, but something to that effect.
Well, you know only a village resident will vote on it.
right,
But it's your referendum, you guys have to decide how you want to do it.
Well, we can talk about it.
We got time, it's not like we're under the gun.
we'll put it on the agenda for next meeting. Do we obviously need to vote on this and pass this ordinance, correct?
Yes, the attorney would redraft the question once the committee tells me what it wants in that
Okay.
question, and we'll get it redrafted.
Okay,
If you want to vote on it November 12th, if you want to come back on the 12th and discuss it some more, then we'd have to vote on it
in
probably the
December.
second meeting in November. Yeah, which is fine too, but don't go too late,
No,
because you gotta go file with the county and all that stuff.
okay. Any other feedback? Okay, we'll meet, we'll talk, and we'll get it together for the next meeting.
So Scott, you're gonna tell me by the 12th what you want in that.
Right.
Okay. And if the answer is we need more board input, that's fine too.
Okay, that's it. That ends my report.
Planning, building, and zoning committee, trustee Mazur.
Thank you. Results of the 10/17 PZC meeting, the public hearing on the special use permit for the sale of recreational marijuana is scheduled for November 21st at the Township Center. The village attorney was at the last PZC meeting to explain the new state laws more thoroughly and the reason why action needs to be taken on this matter prior to January 1st. And that's all I have.
Notices have been published.
What's that?
The notices have been published.
Public safety committee, trustee Cross.
Thank you. The full-time list, I'm hoping to get it out sometime next month. It'll definitely be out, it should definitely be out by the end of the year. I still have to meet with the other 2 committee members to finalize it, but it should be done by the end of the year. And then the auto theft task force, there is some information in the packet about it. The chief explained, him and I met today, I'll let him explain what the issue is.
Thank you. So basically, we have the opportunity to put one of our members into a statewide auto theft task force. Just a little history. There was approximately 3 task forces in the area, Battle, Tri-County, and settlements. They were shut down because the money was swept by the state. So now they, if I'm not mistaken, they came back under the Secretary of State. They're starting up another one in Thornton. Once again, it's statewide. We have the opportunity to put one of our members in there. One, for training purposes. They provide all the money as far as his salary, his overtime. They provide him a car, a phone, things like that. But the training is what we're looking at, and the networking. Obviously, you're probably aware that we had 2 cars stolen this month, so it is something for our area. And that's, we're just working through some of the things right now to finalize that. And we're looking for some support.
Anybody have any questions? Yes, today was what I'm looking for. Like the chief mentioned, there's other moving parts in this. If this happens and the officer is detailed to this task force, we would have to backfill their spot. The chief and I have some ideas on that, but there's other things to discuss. But I just sort of looking for a consensus for the board, because if we enter an IGA, Bob, you said we have to have an ordinance.
Yeah, what I do is I have the attorney review the IGA that Thornton gave us, put a authorizing ordinance on top of it, and then the board would have to vote on it. As far as a money point of view, it should be a zero-sum game at worst to the village as far as dollars and cents go. Because that officer would be compensated, we would receive his full pay and benefits from the state through this program. That money then would be used to hire the other officer and put him in that other officer's place. So there would be plenty of funding to make sure it doesn't cost the village to participate in this program.
That was my one question, but then my second part to that question is what happens after the 4 years?
That
So
officer
we have
will
a
come
new
back.
officer and now we have the other one coming back.
Right.
But I think 4 years from now, the community may be different and we have to absorb it.
Agreed, I was just curious
Yeah. Yeah,
what the thought process was on that.
If I may, so basically, it'll be a savings to the village between $26,000 and $12,786 per year, depending on who's selected. You know, we're looking at almost $100,000 over the 4-year period, which we would save. And some of the things that we could do, obviously, if the task force continues, we've got to rotate, put another person in there, because it's great training. Or there's other things like DEA, where you get a portion of the proceeds back. So, I mean, there are some good things about these task force.
So after 4 years, you could re-up
Yeah.
and recycle.
Yep.
It may not necessarily be the same officer either. It
Correct.
could be a different officer.
Yeah, I've had some experience with this. We were the fiduciaries for Battle, which was the DuPage one. We handled all the money for the task force, and then we sent somebody to Tri-County. We had a guy in there for 4 years, and I tell you what, when he came back, he was a totally different investigator. He was phenomenal. Things that they learned was really, really impressive.
I like it.
Cool.
Before I ask for the attorney draft ordinances, anybody have a major issue with it or something that you can explain? Do I need anything for that, then just bring it up?
No, since we don't have a formal motion, we keep that consensus by head nods. So now we'll put it on the agenda formally. You want to do that November 12th?
Yeah.
So I have no idea what their deadlines are. That's fine.
That's all I have.
Works for me, for me first.
Wastewater treatment plant update. Bob, you wanna give that one?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm writing down.
No, that's all right.
Sewer plant, we are right now sitting at about 80% complete, and to get to the finish line, it's been a struggle. Again, the weather is not cooperating with the rain that we've had. We have some major work to do in the oxidation ditch yet, which involves the installation of a 60-ton crane to lift the axles. I think on the agenda, if I remember right, we're gonna request an extension of time again. And I think they need it. I'm not upset with the extension of time because I don't start paying off the loan until we close the job out. So there's no impact to the village. The EPA is working with us on permitting. So I don't have an issue with that. But it's been a slow struggle. Matt, you wanna add anything?
I mean, we are seeing progress. We're kind of seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. They're moving a lot of equipment out right now. So they're getting ready to do asphalt before the plant's closed down yet.
Oh,
So,
good.
yeah, they've been moving a lot of equipment out, so
Yeah, we have-
it's happening. It's
We have
just-
another progress meeting on Tuesday, November 5th at 1 o'clock. So, Mr. Chairman, if you want to swing by, it's entirely up to you if you want to talk sewage.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I have a quick question. When we had the bad storm a few weeks back, was there any issues on Elliott Street as far as our lines and whatnot? A lot of residents over there had like a lot of backflow into their houses.
We had, I mean, with the 8 or 9 inches of rain we got,
Yeah, I
everybody
know it was a
had
ton
it.
of rain, but I just didn't
Yeah.
know if there was like a specific problem or if maybe we're
We had,
getting ready to have another weak link.
no, not that we're aware of. I mean, we had people with water in their basements literally in every part of town. It wasn't specific to one area or anything like that. It was just, it was too much at once. And
Are you referring to the September 27th event?
Possibly, we only had the really bad rain.
Was it
It was a
Friday
few
night?
weeks back, yeah.
Yeah.
The problem on this side of town is all the sanitary sewers are 8 inches. We have the capacity to pump the sewage to the plant, we can get it out of there. But in that specific neighborhood, all we got is 8-inch pipes. When you get a rain of that magnitude, 8-inch pipes just can't
It doesn't.
handle it. And there's no storm
Mesh
sewers
well.
on that, on west of the tracks, there's no formal storm sewers.
Okay.
So all that pressure gets put on those pipes, and those people, about once every 4 or 5 years, they get water. And overhead sewer is the answer to that problem. And some of them have floor drains that are still hooked up to the sanitary, and that's where the water bubbles up. So we encourage them to put in overhead sewers. And if that's still not good enough, they can put a flapper valve. And Public Works is happy to meet with any resident that's had water in their basement to try to come up with a solution for them.
All right. Lead line replacement program, Matt?
We got an update about 4:30 this afternoon that they pushed a bunch of paperwork to us that we weren't expecting, that we still haven't been able to obviously look through it that late in the day, so from what we gathered so far is they're moving along with the process and they're looking to get the loan process going with the EPA, so just got a little paperwork left to do, I guess, and see where we go.
Mr. Chairman, do you think it's appropriate that before we sign these loan application documents, that maybe the engineer come to the meeting and explain it to the board? Because I saw some big figures in those documents, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Unless you first want to go through these documents, you know, but I don't want to enter into a loan application process and make sure our priorities are in order.
Yeah, well, let's get it through the right channels, right? Let's, one, get it. I haven't seen it, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I saw it
So,
just late this afternoon, and I went,
I mean, yeah, I mean, let's get it. I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna, you know,
we'll forward it to you then.
yeah.
And some of the paperwork I saw was incomplete as well. Not everything is in there that we need to see.
Is there a deadline for this?
February, I think.
So there's plenty of time. Yeah, send it over to me, I'll look it over, and then we'll set up a day where he can come and explain it to the board. Consider a motion authorizing the village president and clerk to sign an agreement with Baxter and Woodman for the design to the Dixie Highway, water main replacement in the amount not to exceed $25,000. I'm gonna ask that we table this. We have some stuff going with, Baxter and Woodman. I'm kinda negotiating with them, or will be, and, wanna hear how they handle some stuff. Consider authorizing the village attorney to draft an ordinance increasing the water rate by $1.50 per 1,000 gallons effective 3/1/20. $1 to accelerate the water main replacement program and 50 cents for replacing lead service lines. The current water main replacement charge is $1 per 1,000 gallons plus the $2 flat fee per month. The total water rate is currently $4.80 per 1,000 and $5.80 per 1,000 over 30,000 gallons. The water and sewer rates increase by 10 cents a year annually. This proposed fee increase would provide additional $154,000 annually for water main replacement and $77,000 annually for the replacement of the lead service lines. Encloses a current rate sheet for the village, plus a village water survey that we did in 2015 for some of those that weren't here for that. So we got till March 1st to act on this. I did want to bring it up to discuss it. We've talked about this in 5-year budget plans. We've talked about this at budget workshops, and the facts are the facts. I mean, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. There is stuff going on at Springfield that could mandate lead service line replacements. The idea of what we did with Robinson Engineering, which we'll see and hear more about that coming up, is it's there. We realized it, which is why we did it, but we're gonna have to we funded the study, but at the end of the day, you gotta fund what the recommendations are gonna be. There's communities that have been hit with this near us, which I'm sure everyone heard about Aqua's problems in University Park. I think we're trying to be progressive with this and get ahead of it. So this is our recommendation. We talked about increasing the water main replacement account. We all know where we're at with the water mains in town. We've done I think a phenomenal job, especially over probably the past, I'd say 6 years especially, of getting a lot of new water mains in. Once Penfield's done and we're paying for that, there's not gonna be a whole lot after that. We all knew that. And so at some point this was gonna come up. I think now's the time. Just wanted to get the rest of the board's reaction and discuss it.
think this is anything new. I think, you know, we talked about this when we did that budget workshop we have for years. So it's not a surprise to me, you know, that it's here.
You know, with the water system, right, this is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, right? Is you got to replace these old water mains. We had numerous water breaks, we continue to have them. You know, we're still constantly, right, I mean, we just tabled one design for another phase for replacing some on Dixie. We got the Gould, Street project going, the Penfield Street project, and there's still places that are in bad shape and need repairs, and these things can't wait. And at the end of the day, I think this is the best way to attack this. And we've done the studies with the 10 cents a year. We all know whenever that ordinance was approved, which I think you said goes back to like when we first started here.
Yeah.
To only do it by that much, it's not enough.
Well, the percentage of increase actually goes down every year with that dime.
Yeah. So, here we are. I think Trustee Whalen said it best. I mean, everybody should have known this was coming over the past few years, and it's here.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it mentioned by an auditor too, not the current auditor?
Yeah.
The previous auditors mentioned it.
That's right. You are correct, Mayor.
How does this, I guess, fit into the 5-year plan? I mean, you're talking about over 200, is this solve the problem?
We've talked about this, I brought it up, I think, and I don't know if you were here yet or not, Todd, but I brought it up that I think, no, it's not gonna solve the problem. It's not, but
It
it's,
accelerates the replacements.
yeah, but it's a step in the right direction to solving the problem. Where I brought it up that I think something like this needs to be done every other year. The one advantage that we have to this is that, and the residents should know that, this is going into a separate fund. It is going into a separate fund for water main replacement, okay? This monies collected cannot be used for operation. It cannot be used for salaries. It cannot be used for anything other than putting new water mains in the ground. So, I mean, that was the idea of creating or adding this to strictly the water main replacement account and not into just onto the water bill as a 10-cent increase or like that has been done.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna do something like this, I like the idea that goes directly for that. My only concern is when we start looking at budgets, which I mean, isn't too far off. If something's identified in the general fund that we need money for, and we just did this increase, I mean, do we put that off? I mean, we keep seeing every year that we don't increase the tax levy for the general fund, but we are, I mean, my concern is we are raising the cost of living here. I understand some of the stuff has to get done, but I'm worried that if we do this and then something else comes up, you know, we have to make that decision.
Well, this is being paid for by the people that use it. This isn't a blank increase across the board as a property tax increase, no matter what you're paying it. If you use 8,000 gallons, it would be $8.50 every 2 months of an increase. You know? Or if you use 10,000 gallons, I'm sorry, or 8,000, which is the minimum. So, yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. We go over this, but this is water money. And at the end of the day, we have a duty to provide water to the residents. So, general fund issues are general fund issues. I think we've addressed what we can with doing a zero tax levy increase over the past
Since 2000.
8 years. And we'll continue to do that. I just heard the general fund's gonna save some money, so there's some money sitting there for you for a possible increase, less than what the tax levy increase would create, so.
He's already got it spent.
So, yeah, I mean, it is,
There are pressures on the general fund. I mean, this Laraway Communications Center issue that we have, the rate increase they wanna charge us exceeds anything we could levy under P-TEL and the tax increase.
okay, but
Unfortunately. Yeah.
that's a discussion for 5-year financial, that's a discussion for budget. This is a discussion on whether or not to authorize the village attorney to draft an ordinance increasing the water rate. So, we wanna talk about pressures in the general fund, I'm happy to do that and looking forward to it when that time comes. But at the end of the day, this is where we're at here.
On an average, household, would it cost them per year? What was that figure?
Well, a minimum user would be $850 times 6.
On a minimum user, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Average user is probably 14, Don?
Yeah, and it's really hard to narrow that down.
What the median user is, yeah.
Yes, I mean, there's so many variables, but say a family of 14,000 gallons, 14 to 16.
And I think what the main thing is here is there's a purpose, it's just not an open-ended increase.
$87 a year. But it, did you look at the survey of our rates in comparison to other towns?
Yeah, we're
We're
lower.
on the significantly lower end. We made a decision years ago that we weren't gonna deal with Aqua. When Aqua had approached this village to come in and talk, this village board at the time basically instructed administration that the door's shut, there's nothing to talk about, that we wanted to maintain control of our own system, water and sewer. And here's where we're at, I mean, this is the cost of doing business.
What number were we using as for an average user? We just wanna make sure we have the right number.
14,000.
14 times $1.50, right? Times 6. I get 126, just for clarification. I don't want anyone to say we misled anybody. If it's on 14, 8.5 would be, an 8,000 gallon user would be $72.
14.5.
So it would be, 1.5 times 14 times 6.
Oh,
And then 8 times.
126.
Yeah, and then 8 times, the minimum user would be,
$21 every 2 months.
right, and then 8,
$10.50 a month.
the minimum user would be $72 a year.
Right.
If some of you are just still trying to mull this over in your head, we still have time. So if you don't wanna make the motion tonight, you don't have to, you can wait. Just throw that out, if you wanna digest what's been presented to you.
What is the minimum usage for like seniors? I mean, is it 5,000, 8?
You know what, it is around 5,000. I mean, like I say, it depends on so many different things. I myself live alone, I only use 4. And I mean, I don't try to save water, I'm brushing my teeth with the water on, so I probably have more efficient clothes washing, who knows, but I would say 4,000 or 5,000 for a senior. They're always a minimum bill.
Minimum bill being 8,000?
Anything up to 8,000 gallons.
And the thing behind that, Scott, is even though you use 4,000, we have to be able to provide that household 8,000,
Right.
And that's why that 8,000 minimum is there.
I don't go over it, it's based on.
We're right at 8,000. Just the two of us are right at 8.
So close your motion.
guess I'm not opposed, I guess, it's just something to be done now. Personally, I prefer if I can mull through everything just to see if any other questions come up. I mean, if now or next month isn't that big a deal, but.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and make a motion authorizing the village attorney to draft an ordinance increasing the water rate by $1.50 per 1,000 gallons effective 3/1/20. $1 for the water main replacement program and 50 cents for replacing lead service lines.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
Second, any questions?
Yeah, under that motion, the 50 cents for lead, would we put that in water main replacement and keep a separate ledger for it?
No.
You want a separate account?
I would say.
Okay.
Okay.
You good with that?
Yeah,
I know
that's
you
fine.
need extra
It's,
accounts.
it's another account to reconcile every month.
That's fine,
I mean,
that's
it's,
fine,
it's
yeah,
easier to keep it separate, I think.
yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call.
Kraus,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
Whalen,
Yes.
Basil,
Yes.
Lezard.
Yes.
Consider a motion approving a time extension with IHC Construction for December 27th, 2019 for the final completion date for the additional valve replacement, and May 31st, 2020 for final completion date for final restoration and paving. Valve replacement is due to the change order that we approved September 11. Time is needed to receive and install that order. Restoration work is due to the time extensions which have been already granted, which pushes the completion date into December, at which time planting season will be over and the blacktop plants will be closed. So I'll go ahead and make a motion approving a time extension with IHC for December 27th, 2019 for the final completion date for additional valve replacement, and May 31st, 2020 for final completion date for final restoration and paving.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second, any questions? Roll call.
Lezard,
Yes.
Basil,
Yes.
Whalen.
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
That's it?
Yep.
Thank you. Economic Development and Community Relations Committee, Trustee Meyer.
Sesquicentennial update, the plans are pretty well rolling for just about everything, unless we do some afternoon events. Beanbag tournament, not a bad idea. I might see if I still have, I don't know if I still have all the contact information for those 4th of July. People that used to play every year.
It says here Saturday.
Mhm.
I think we meant Sunday, did we not? Because Saturday's the beef roast day.
This is the weekend before.
This is the street
This is the weekend before,
Right,
where
we're
they're
doing the
doing the
same
street
thing.
dance
This is a
weekend.
street dance.
The following weekend is the other.
Okay, it says we also have a good plan for Saturday. And it says,
I didn't write it.
I know, I'm just trying to. No, I was talking about
We actually
Sunday.
did.
Well, okay, Sunday is the issue. Saturday's planned out. We got
Yeah.
Saturday pretty well planned. Part-time players are doing a thing. I think the Lions Club's got a birthday cake or something that we're doing. But the question was, do we wanna do a church picnic on Sunday from 12 to 3? That is the question that,
And that was the thing we were debating about as far as like food service and having people bring food and health department and things like that.
yeah, I mean, do you do a pig roast, or do you do a potluck, or do you wanna do it at all? Are people gonna be burned out after doing Saturday? It's up to this board, it's your party, what do you wanna do? You know?
What about, like, just another idea, and I just got the idea this past weekend, Saturday, what about a magic show? We went to the Haunted Happenings or whatever in Moments, and they put on, the village hall put on a magic show for the kids. It was really good and well attended.
I think if you're gonna do anything, you have to do a bunch of things. Because if you just have one thing, you know, if you do a magic show or something that lasts X amount of time, you're not gonna get as many people coming down as if you have multiple events. And then, you know,
Throw that in there too.
we
I might-
wanna do a bunch.
I might suggest maybe just reach out to the pastors in town, see what they think. Have them come in and have them sit down and go from there, because we're planning it, they're the ones that have to push it to their churches.
I think they would. That's
Well-
not the issue, Frank. The issue is, how much effort do you wanna put into it as far as what events do you want that afternoon? You just can't come and eat and go home. There's gotta be other events that bring the people down, like a beanbag or a magic show or whatever you wanna do, you know?
This is sesquicentennial, right? So when we're talking about things like that, are we talking about maybe going back in years? Or how are we gonna celebrate it? Are we gonna bring some old time things in?
That actually sounds like a really good
The-
idea. I like that.
You know, I mean, it's like
On
a throwback.
the Summerfest part of it, that's what the part-time players are gonna do.
Okay.
They're
That's the
gonna do
following
skits
weekend.
and, right. And I think we're trying to get the helicopter back. I don't know, Mayor, have you?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So we're trying to do that, and one of the other ideas I had was trying to partner with the fire department. I haven't reached out to them yet about a water slide and then man it. Things like that. We have the car show still, the same things we had, the craft show, the car show, the laser show at night. But the part-time players will be a big part of that, hopefully.
Too bad we can't get one of those old pumpers, you know, the fire pumpers, and let the kids see how they used to put fires out, you know,
There's probably one out there somewhere, it's just whether we can get it.
well, it's up in the balcony.
You have to take the roof off.
Yeah,
Matt?
maybe something we could talk about.
No, but I think Saturday is pretty well covered. It's, do you wanna do a church picnic concept, a community picnic on Sunday? That's something we never solidified.
We can think about that. My concern is having 2 full weekends in a row. You don't wanna burn people out your first weekend, so that next weekend for the big one, for the beef roast and the laser light show and everything, that you've got everybody, oh yeah, well, we just did that last weekend, let's go shopping. I think the Saturday night thing, you can always capture stuff Saturday night. You've got the, food booths down there. People are always gonna go drink. Street dance is something that, can be well attended. Do you wanna do 2 full weekends in a row, basically?
When he kicked it around with me, I just simply said that my opinion would be is that you've got the laser light show that night, you're gonna play a little music after, that's the grand finale, that's over with then.
So the laser light show would be the grand, I'm not opposed to that either, but it's your party, you guys can decide.
One day sounds good.
How about
Well, it's already gonna be the 2 weekends. This is gonna be the weekend before, all the stuff down on Gold Street, and then the following one
I
is.
know the lines will be pretty exhausted after Saturday.
Yeah, and then, just, I don't know.
How about if we summarize it this way, the committee will meet to continue to discuss it, if you have any suggestions, please refer to them. We're throwing out ideas.
To them, so I'll have more on that under old and new business.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
So,
Old business.
okay. Committee of the whole. What is the point of that? Because and let me tell you, before I, give you that question, here's my question. So economic development, community relations, I really don't have a co-chair, so the committee's gonna be basically, I can go sit in my house and make a decision. It doesn't seem like much has changed at the complicated committees like Public Works and maybe Police. Do you still meet with your department head separately? Do you have some kind of meetings that go on?
We usually have at least 2, usually about 4 times a year. We usually meet about every 3 months
So big
on
difference
issues
is,
depending on what it is, and then there's other things with it.
Yeah, I
And
kinda
this
missed
this
that.
last year, there was a lot more because of all the new hires and stuff that we've done, so.
so big difference now is you don't have to have a co-chair there.
You're the co-chair, the entire board is the co-chair when he presents everything to the
But
board.
all this stuff in here looks just the same as it always did. We're not sitting and making decisions, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing, I get, to me, where it started was that everybody could become more involved as a group. But to me, in practice, it doesn't look like there's anything changed. I'm looking at the same packets, the same things that are more complicated that maybe I don't understand. It just seems like maybe there's a little less transparency because you have one person that's meeting with their people, and that's my issue. And let me tell you when this came up. So 2 things. First of all, when we were at planning and zoning, there were a few of us at the meetings and we were getting a little nervous at the fact that it seemed like Plan Commission was kicking the can down the road on the cannabis vote. Even as far as having the public hearing, every meeting, let's talk about it next month, let's talk about it next month. And we're a little concerned, thinking, okay, if this keeps going further on, we're not even gonna have time to be able to talk about this or deal with it. And I think Stacy made a comment, or I made a comment, a committee meeting, it was like, what committee meeting? I mean, we could bring it up here, but there's no place where you just sit and get together with your committee and maybe kick some things around and then bring it up to the board. That part seems to be gone. Yes, I know we can deal with it. Economic development side, I know people come to Village Hall, you and I have talked, there's been a couple of people that have, come up with ideas for the village. I don't find out anymore, it's like there's no committee. I just think it's cutting out transparency, having it this way. It seems like there's less, finance committee, I didn't always show up to the meetings when I was co-chair, but basically finance, if you're gonna do something now, you're gonna meet with Bob and Greg. Is anything gonna be posted when you guys sit down? Well, no, we don't have a majority of a quorum, so, you don't have to post meetings. If you were gonna have a meeting, would you post it? If it's just you, would I even know there was one if I wanted to attend? These are just questions I have about this committee of the whole, that I see there's some gaps.
The whole idea was that the one trustee assigned to whatever would present things to the entire village board, so everybody would know about it, because when it was a committee in the past, there were things that were getting lost in the shuffle as well. I mentioned this when we said we would try this, rather than change anything in writing, and we would try it. If you don't like it, we can certainly go back to it. But if nothing's really changed, which I agree with you, there are times that it appears nothing's really changed, except there's one trustee that meets with the department head, and then that trustee is supposed to present it to the entire village board, and like you did tonight with the task force. And then once then the second meeting is then for the motions,
Yeah.
so.
And that's just my take. I see a few drawbacks to it, and maybe I'm the only one, but I see a few drawbacks where,
There are pluses and minuses to both structures.
yeah, and where it just doesn't look like anything has really changed. When I look at the packet, it's, nothing is more streamlined, it's kind of, except for this week, because it's very pretty. But, this week it's a very pretty packet.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it seems like it's basically the same packet, it's just there's less of us involved in the process. Just my 2 cents.
Anybody else?
No, I see what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
especially with certain things, I see that.
I
Yeah.
do agree, I feel a little bit more lost, because like certain questions that you have, there's that quarterly meeting, or there just seems like there was more communication, I don't know.
Okay, we can go back to Sam.
Yeah, you wouldn't hear me complain. I'd rather go back. At least there'd be another co-chair that would have said, yeah, about the water rates, and I ain't the only fall guy up here saying, this is what we need to do.
And I can say, as
Facts are facts, numbers are numbers, and I'm gonna stand by it.
as previous
a million
co-chair
times,
to the water,
Yeah,
we
one
did
guy
have
on the
those
firing line
conversations
then,
in our quarterly meetings,
hit
so.
from 6 different directions rather than being spread out over 2 people, where 2 people can say, look, yeah, we've vetted this, we've done a process through this.
And then if you both don't agree,
Then you bring it to the board and you have both sides there on a presentation.
all right, that's fine. New business coming before the board.
I got something. So the chief just brought it up that, as most of us already know, that there was 2 vehicles stolen in town. And I didn't know until today when I received a police blotter, the weekly police blotter that was a month long, that this happened on October 2nd. And then along with that, on October 2nd also, there was numerous vehicles broken into in a subdivision. We have forms of communication. Isn't that something that we want to let residents know about? I get a Nixle report every time there's a wind gust over 50 miles an hour. But if I live in a subdivision where there was a rash of break-ins and 2 vehicles stolen overnight, wouldn't I want to be notified to be a little extra vigilant and watching my property? And to mention that, and to mention that, like I said, I just found out about it, it was October 2nd. We had a board meeting after that happened also, and it didn't come up,
That is correct.
on October 14th.
points well taken, I don't think we have to say anything.
How would you suggest that communication get out?
I don't know,
Well, I
we've gone over social media, village Facebook pages, police department Facebook pages, Beecher, groups. We have a committee that's called Economic Development and Community Relations, right? I don't know if you knew about it before today's police blotter, I'm guessing not, because I can tell by the surprise on your face also. I mean,
In the past, we have posted things like this on Facebook. In the past, we were also using Nixle a little bit more. In my opinion, we've gotten a little lax, and your point's well taken, and we'll take care of it. Anything else? There's no need for executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made, is there a second?
I'm sorry.
Roll call.
Kraus,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Kraus.
yes.
Wheeling.
Yes.
Basil.
Yes.
Ozark.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
There was no
Thank you.
faithful